can see the amount of copper in this piece. This is a good copper ore, lots of copper. It's a nice looking piece. This is a little cabochon I made out of that same copper. So yes, you can make jewelry out of this stuff too. Really nice. Bad thing about copper, it'll tarnish over a while, so you have to keep it clean. Otherwise that shiny copper look will be gone in a blink of an eye. Especially the more you touch it with your fingers, the faster that copper will go, or the copper color will go. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Rock Room. This week we're going to talk about copper. Copper is in several areas in the world, but here in the United States where I'm from, it's from the upper peninsula of Michigan. So I'll show you some stuff I've collected, some stuff I've got over the years. We'll show you copper ore, what they call, I believe, float copper. It's like the copper that's been eroded away from the stone, and it washes up on the beaches of Lake Superior. And then just some other interesting copper pieces. So let's take a look at some copper. Here's another piece of that copper ore. You can see the amount of copper in there. A lot of times what they'll do is they will take like a clear coat, you know, some kind of a thing you'd probably use on wood or something, and when they cut these slabs, they'll paint this stuff on, and then that'll stop the copper from oxidizing, but it also makes it look really cheesy. So that's why I use these old slabs, and I will cut these up and I'll make jewelry out of them, and we will scrub the varnish right off of that. Okay, here's another big piece of copper ore, so you can see the copper in there. And the reason this has a hole, I bought this at a garage sale quite a few years back for just $1, I think. And what somebody had done to it, again, you can see this this nice shellac job on it. And what they had done is they drilled this hole and they made this into a clock, so it had hands on it, and then they just had them cheesy numbers stuck around there. So I peeled all that off. Eventually I'll cut this down, and you know, we'll decide what I want to do with it at some other time. But I just thought it was kind of interesting because it's that native copper ore. Nice looking piece. Alright, now here's a piece of copper ore, and this is of a quartz. You can see the translucency to it, and this is copper in quartz. Again, not the high quality copper. I mean, you know, obviously it's valuable that they mine this, but this is copper in quartz. It's a green quartz, and the quartz gets this green color from the minerals in the copper. So this is kind of neat. Now here's a piece of copper ore. See the copper running through there. Okay, here's another one of your native coppers. This is a copper and epidote. A little bit tougher to see the copper, but it's running all through here. I can't get it to really shine, but this is full of copper and epidote. Again, this is the copper and the quartz, and this is what this looks like when they mine it. It's tough to see, but all these little specks are like copper wires almost running through this stone, through this quartz, and that's what they're mining, this copper quartz, just for the copper. And this is that other copper. This almost kind of looks like a granite or something, but That's what it looks like on the outside. See the little green stains in there from the copper. I cut this piece. It didn't have a lot of copper showing through like some other parts of it, but you know, I'm sure you cut down in here further and you'll find a lot more copper, because this ore seems to have a lot of copper in it. Again, this is a piece of copper ore. You don't see any copper on the outside, but you can just feel the weight on this. And then obviously the green's always a giveaway. That's its copper rich ore. Kind of a nice looking green too. There you can see some green staining right there. That's obviously where a little piece of copper is coming through. Copper ore. Of course, there's another big chunk. You see it's got a little bit of the green look to it, but like I say, you can always just feel the heft of it, and you can see all the copper veins running through this. It's actually got quite a bit of copper running through it. And that's the copper ore. Okay, so now you got this big massive beast. Again, this is that copper ore. And although you can't see copper on it, you can tell by the green and the fact of how heavy this is for its size. This is really, really heavy. But what is odd is you have this little thing stuck on the top here. And the only reason this little guy is stuck on the top of this is because there's a big chunk of copper running down in there. And when I hit this, you can actually feel the vibrating of the metal of the copper holding this on. So this is pretty interesting specimen. Although, like I say, you can't physically see the copper in there. You know, you can actually see a little copper tabs in there. But yeah, this is a big chunk of copper in the ore that's keeping this little tiny rock on top of this big huge rock. Pretty neat specimen. Okay, this is what they call float copper. Now, some people may recognize this. It gets its blue color. This could be like azurite or chrysocolla or something, malachite. Obviously not malachite because it's not green, it's blue. But this is the copper that is completely washed out of the ore. Although this didn't get totally smooth like the float copper would look like, but this is getting close to that stage. Nice looking piece of copper. Again, here's a piece of copper in its ore stage, or just out of its ore stage. You can see a lot of the malachite. You can see some quartz that it was growing up against. And again, it's real rough form like this, which means they crush this to get this big chunk of copper out of the quartz ore. Nice looking piece though. Now this is what they call float copper. This is what you can pick up on the beaches of Lake Superior in copper country. These little tiny little stones have eventually washed or eroded out of the copper ore and then into the water or from the water, and then after years and years and years the rock has been completely washed off. The copper is smooth from the natural tumbling of the waves, and you get float copper. So yeah, you can find this. It's tough to find. You're best off using a metal detector. Pretty neat stuff. Okay, now here's another piece of copper ore. You can see that quartz vein running through there, and you can see the heavy amount of copper in here. Again, there's just copper everywhere in here. And like I say, always the giveaway is just the weight of this compared to what a normal rock at this size, a little, you know, twice as big as a golf ball, a little bit bigger than a golf ball, but this thing weighs a considerable amount, which means it has a lot of copper in it. Okay, here's another piece of copper. Again, this is the stuff they just crush out of the ore. These pieces are real tough to find now because, well, obviously copper's getting expensive, but these natural pieces like this are pretty cool. And again, this is just copper. Just big old chunks of copper. This one's almost got some copper crystals going on inside of it. Nice looking pieces. Another crazy looking piece of copper. And this is still its host rock. You can see this big copper vein is running from this side straight through, coming out that side, and this is its big chunk of host rock still on there on that copper vein. And here's a pretty interesting piece too. Big chunk of copper. It's got some of its host rock on there. But then if you look, if I can zoom in here, you can see this, let's see if I can hold it steady here. You can see this little crystal formation. And you just see just the crazy, don't mind the spider web. Obviously it's sat on my shelf for too long, right? But yes, look at that nice little crystal formation in that copper. Zoom out a little bit here. Nice piece of copper in host rock. Okay, here's another nice, interesting piece. Almost like a copper, I'm starting to lose focus. Almost like a copper, piece of copper coral. And you can see that leafy nature to it. And then there's this. If you ever get lucky enough to find something like this, I say it may not look like much, but if I zoom out, now this is probably a, I don't know, maybe a 10, 12 pound chunk of natural copper. You can see the quartz vein that they busted this out of, and you can see that quartz a little bit in there, but this is just one giant chunk of copper, just like it comes out of the ground. No beautification done on this at all. Kind of looks like an angry snowman holding something. You could clean this up and shine it up and smooth it off and make it look all pretty for a display piece, but it kind of takes away from the naturalness of this. This is just like, say, I'm sure when this originally was cracked out of the quartz, it might have been, you know, copper colored. It might have been shiny. I don't really know. I've never seen the close-up process. When we find these with metal detectors like this, back in the day, you could literally go to Upper Michigan and metal detect on these old ore piles, and this is what you would find if you're lucky enough. I do not know if it's still done now, if you can still go up there and metal detect for this or not. I know you can still find it on the beaches, but This is just one big old chunk of copper. Impressive piece of copper. And you ask yourself, what do they do with that copper ore? They just make copper wire out of it, copper plates? No, they actually do a lot of different stuff with it. This is a copper tile. They did these, if they still manufacture them now, I'm not really sure, but back in the day they made these copper tiles. And what it was just the copper and the stone. And they would crush this and smelt it all together and make these copper tiles. I'll show you some other forms of this. Now here's one with some white stones added. And you can see the foundry marks where I'd imagine they're going to slice this to get these. This is obviously one of the end pieces. To slice this out and get these copper tiles out. But this is just one big chunk of copper with those little white quartzy pieces stuck in there. Okay, now here is a copper tile. This is what they were making. This is a copper, one solid chunk of copper with these little black flecks of stone, and it's a copper tile. Pretty interesting. And here's one with the white flecks in it, and you can see the lines where they cut these. Or maybe just left them in sheets to make it look like individual pieces. I'm not really sure. Maybe if somebody out there knows what these were originally for. I heard like Notre Dame and stuff like that had copper tiles on the roof. Copper, so maybe that's what it was. I'm not really sure, but this is raw copper with little tiny pieces of quartz stuck in there. All right. So I just got these at a deal one day, and I thought, well, someday I'll make something with them, and perhaps someday I will. Alright, here's another piece of that. One with the black stones. Nice. Alright everybody, thanks for watching. That was our little copper journey through the Upper Peninsula, although we weren't in the Upper Peninsula. Maybe CCC's up there, enjoying that Upper Peninsula all the time. We just get to visit it every once in a while. And actually I had recently done a trip up there to get some superior agates, and we did real well. We found some really nice stuff. I guess that cornfield trick, that the hunting the farm fields, the cornfields, and the potato fields, it's a pretty good idea. It works universal. Them farmers go out there and every year they plow up that ground and it's all brand new stuff. So if you can get permission, that's the key. Get that permission to get out there and hunt those things. Wow, you can find some beauties out there. Just amazing. And that'll be sooner or later. I'll get to that video. Also, I have a video in the process. We're working on the natural metallics, where we get a lot of stones that have metallic properties. Those are kind of interesting too. Iron stones and some of the shimmery stuff. So we'll look at some of that too. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Really appreciate everybody's comments. Hope you like what you're seeing. and see you next week. Thanks for watching.